Hello and welcome to the Command Phase. My name is Mark and thank you so much for joining me. The Warhammer Day reveals have been and gone, and while they weren't quite as exciting as a 40th anniversary may have deserved, there were some fantastic models revealed, some long-awaited resculpts that were very much needed, the new setting for Kill Team, and a look at the next two codexes for 40k. So without any further ado, let's get stuck in. First up is on paper a really good addition to the Ad Mech unit lineup. What looks to be a cheap lone operative with stealth, somehow, and a pretty tasty rifle. If you can look past the
Go gadget legs!
The Sidonian Skatros is a pretty nice addition to the Adeptus Mechanicus lineup, although those legs do look extremely fragile. This is the Ad Mech's creation for the perfect sniper, and it's certainly got some good options on that front. The Skatros can be equipped with either the Radium Jezzail for popping infantry, or the Transuranic Arquebus for dealing with vehicles and monsters. The weird thing about these profiles is the D3 damage being on the shot to deal with the vehicles and monsters, although depending on the points cost, reliably getting a couple wounds a turn onto a monster or vehicle while holding battlefield objectives or screening your deployment zone would add up. It also has the Achillean Eye, which provides rerolls to wound against its designated target, which is great to apply some consistency to the damage. Something that makes this model one we'll see a fair amount of is the fact it has the stealth and lone operative abilities. This makes it a great unit to sit untargetable on your backfield objectives and popping shots off where it can, or utilising it in strategic reserves to be a nuisance on other parts of the board, even just to rack up secondaries. The Adeptus Mechanicus Codex art was also revealed, and sadly it's pretty much the same as the 9th edition one, which, like I mentioned before for the Tyranids Codex, just feels a bit of a letdown. Moving on from that, we were given some information about it. So inside you'll have 5 full detachments, each with the usual detachment rule, set of 4 enhancements, and 6 stratagems for you to choose from. There'll also be 30 data sheets, which is the current 29 we have, plus the new Sidonian Skatros, all with tweaks and updates. Then of course you'll have the lore update, combat patrol and crusade rules, plus model gallery and painting guide. Sadly, the 5 detachments is less than both the Tyranids and Marines have had so far, but hopefully these will be at least comparable to each other and not having a few duds to reduce the amount of competitive options. We did also get given an indication of what these detachments are. So you'll have the existing Rad Zone cohort from the Index, which is receiving revisions to make their detachment rule, Rad Bombardment, produce the results they were intending. Currently it deals a minor amount of mortal wounds from bombarding the enemy deployment zone and the small potential of battle shocking your opponent's units. This is a very time consuming ability and doesn't quite have the effect I'm sure Games Workshop were looking for. I'll be very curious to see what changes they end up making to this. Next we have the Exploratory Mana Pool, which wants to acquire rare archaeotech from the battlefield no matter the cost. The cohort Cybernetica apparently provides you with some powered up Castellan robots. Then there's the Data Som Conclave, where the tech priests exhort the cult Mechanicus to eradicate their foes. And lastly, the Skitarii Hunter cohort, whose detachment rule was shown, which is Stealth Optimization, which grants your Skitarii infantry and mounted units, plus your Iron Striders, the stealth ability, and also provides the benefit of cover to all Sicarian units targeted by ranged attacks from more than 12 inches away. This is a pretty nice ability we've recently seen for the Space Marines with the Vanguard Spearhead detachment. This will allow you to trade more favourably at range, adding some range defence to these keyworded units. Although being only for that subset of the force is a shame considering the Marines got it for pretty much everything. They've also shown us one of the new stratagems for this detachment called Binaric Offense. This allows 2 Skitarii units from your army that haven't been selected to shoot or fight this phase and 1 enemy unit. They can only target that unit, but when they do, their weapons get 1 more point of armor penetration. For 2 CP, I think it's pretty expensive for that limited use, but it may well be something to keep in mind when you need to make sure you get some damage through. We'll apparently be hearing more in the coming weeks ahead of this codex's release, which I'm sure Ad Mech players will be really looking forward to, and hopefully some buffs to the army which they sorely need. One of the first of two model reveals that really needed their updated sculpt from Finecast is the reimagining of Imhotep the Stormlord, and this update really helps bring into the current aesthetic of the Necron army and looks fantastic. He's the character for the Necron army that generates you 1 CP at the start of your command phase, and once per battle calls down a lightning storm dealing mortal wounds to units within 12 inches of him. Compared to the old one, it's a nice up-res, bringing him to the current aesthetic, but to be fair, not having to deal with Finecast is the biggest win here. We also got some information about the upcoming codex, which thankfully has a nice new piece of artwork on the cover. This was mentioned to be the 4th codex, so potentially to come after the Adeptus Mechanicus one. This book will also receive 47 datasheets in total, down from 50. I'm not 100% sure whether anything is being removed or they're just condensing datasheets to get to this number. Although to be fair, it wouldn't surprise me if some of the old Finecast models will be getting phased out. Again, they've stated there will be some tweaks and changes to these datasheets as well. As with the Ad Mech, the Necrons will also be getting 5 detachments in total. The Awakened Dynasty returns from the Index as expected. Then we have the Hyper Crypt Legion, which lets Necron units hyperphase into strategic reserves at the end of the enemy turn. This sounds like the current Grey Knight's Teleport Assault army rule, which could be incredibly strong with the current slow-moving and very durable Necron units. We were shown one of the Hyper Crypt Legion strats too, called Hyperphasic Recall. So this allows you in your opponent's shooting or fight phase just after an enemy unit has shot or fought, you can target one of your Necron infantry units from your army that has had one or more of its models destroyed as a result of those attacks and one friendly monolith model. You can remove your infantry unit from the battlefield and then set it back up anywhere on the battlefield that's wholly within 6 inches of your monolith model and not within engagement range of one or more enemy units. Being able to pay 2 CP to disrupt your opponent's attacks, bringing that unit back to a monolith and keeping them alive is a nice ability. Plus, at the end of the turn, they could go back into strat reserves and teleport back to where they're needed most. This honestly sounds like a really fun army detachment if it works in the way that I think it does. Then we have Obeisance Phalanx, where a contingent of noble overlords who prefer to enact their master plans from the front line get bonuses. We also then have the Canoptic Court, which taps into buried Necron technologies to empower Cryptex and their minus Canoptic constructs in areas of the battlefield they control. Last of all, we get the Annihilation Legion, which unlocks the true potential of the Destroyer cults. This buys into the melee heavy theme, and with the enhancement revealed called Eternal Madness, this will give the bearer and the unit they're leading a 4-up fight on death if they were destroyed in the fight phase and hadn't fought yet. While this isn't great against ranged armies, if it's cheap enough it could be a nice upgrade, especially against melee armies. Next up, we got to see the new Kill Team Salvation box set, and after fighting in the confines of the Gallowdark, the Space Hulk crash landed to the planet Beta Decima, and your teams prepared to clash on the industrial rigs above its predator-infested seas. This is the first place you'll be able to get hold of the much needed resculpt of the Eldari Striking Scorpions from their old Finecast variety, and the updated Space Marine Scouts. First up, the Striking Scorpions update looks great and really brings them in line to today's higher quality aesthetic, and they'll have some more adaptability and posing available in construction. The kit will also include all the classic weapon options like the Scorpion's Claw, chainswords, and the Biting Blade for the Exarch, plus helmeted or half-helmeted heads depending on what you prefer. These will be part of the Blades of Cain kill team, which has other members of the Aspect Warrior Shrines as part of it. This could make up for some really interesting teams mixing Howling Banshees and Dark Reapers in, and potentially allows for the excuse for resculpts of the other Aspect Warriors that are still in their Finecast forms later down the line. Next is the updated Scout Squad, which we did see recently in the Space Marine preview. Again, it's a really nice update from the aesthetic from the previous version with all the weapon options you could want. I really do appreciate that they were painted up as Raven Guard for this reveal rather than the typical poster boys that are the Ultramarines. It really helps to sell the sneaky nature of Kill Team. The first way you'll have access to these units is sadly through the Kill Team Salvation box set, with the individual releases typically being a few months later. That being said, Games Workshop have changed up the way in which these boxes release. Typically at the start of a season you'd have one giant box with all the terrain, rules and new kill teams inside. This time around they split up the war zone being in one box to buy separately, and then you have the Kill Team Salvation box, which will include the 2 kill teams, a few pieces of scattered terrain and all the rules and accessories you'll need to play the game. This has been done typically due to most Kill Team players probably have a good amount of terrain already, with some always coming in those bigger boxes in the past. So this allows players to pick up just the rule sections rather than being tied to a big box with terrain they may not want. I like the idea of this as long as it's priced accordingly to pick up both the team and terrain boxes if you wanted to at a similar cost to how it was previously, although I'm not holding my breath on that part. Still, it will make it easier for people that just want the teams to be able to grab these and not have to worry about a big box of unbuilt terrain sitting in the corner of their room in their pile of potential. Let me know in the comment section below your thoughts on this change. Is it a good one or are you worried about the price? In terms of the Warzone itself, Killzone Beta Decima, the set contains 18 pieces of terrain to use with the new Killzone rules in Kill Team Salvation, including a Ferrotonic Furnace with a redesigned platform and ramparts, 8 modular gantries with there being 2 large, 2 small and 4 medium ones, and 9 industrial themed objective markers, plus a double-sided game board representing the toxic, fume-shrouded oceans of Beta Decima. I do hope there are special rules in here to reduce the visibility to shooting across the water in order to limit how well ranged armies will do here, as it does seem pretty open. But apparently you do have the potential to kick an operative off the walkways into the water 300 style.
This is Sparta!
Overall, a fairly decent reveal, albeit not as grand as a 40th anniversary level one I'm sure many of us were hoping for. While it wasn't 40k related, the Lord Relictor Ionis Cryptborn for Age of Sigmar is something I'd be sorely tempted to pick up just to paint. The model looks fantastic. Let me know in the comment section below what you made of the reveals. Was there a favourite model or piece of information shown here that you're really excited for? If you enjoyed the video and want to see more, please hit that subscribe button and the bell notification icon so you know when the next one is released. Thank you all so much for watching the command phase, and I'll see you in the next video.